Hey, I'm Steve Zapato, and you're listening to Speaker Talks podcast for speakers, authors, entrepreneurs, and people who really want to change their life and move around in the world. I guess that's the best way to put it. Because speakers, we know we travel a lot. Authors are looking for the opportunity to sell more books, and of course, in order to do that, you have to speak a lot, which means you're going to be moving around. And then entrepreneurs who are always looking to raise their level of awareness and business acumen. And today I have the great pleasure of introducing you to Beth Caldwell. And she calls herself a speakerpreneur. You've heard of entrepreneurs. Well, here's a speakerpreneur. So I'll let her tell us what that's all about, right? Hey, Beth, are you there?
Hi, Steve. How nice to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks. Beth's in Chicago or somewhere it's cold. I'm in Tampa where it's warm.
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Yeah, we just talked about Chicago. That's right.
Yeah. That's right. Yes. A lot of people consider that home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I like to say we're home of Carnegie Mellon University, where they are working on the first actual self-driving car for humans. All that technology is happening right up the street from me.
Now, see, Carnegie Mellon only rings Rodney Dangerfield memories for me. He had that movie where he was something with Carnegie Mellon, and I was like, that was weird. That was a good movie. I enjoyed it for being stupid humor. So if you like that kind of thing, but yeah, that's a very prestigious place, right?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of technology happening around here recently.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, we need it to change. We need a lot of things to change, and it's funny because we talk about how much the world has changed so quickly. I mean, I grew up, with you cranked your phone, and if you cranked it so many times, the neighbors knew it was for them, or they knew to let it go to somebody else. And then you went through.
You didn't. You're lying.
Oh, my aunt and uncle had that at their farm down in.
Oh, wow.
Where were they? They were in Iowa, someplace, Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and so we used the crank phone, and so it was phenomenal. And of course, then you went to the dial phone, and you had those 20-foot cords because you only had one in the house, so you had to be able to walk around the house with it, or hide from.
Sure.
You got a call from your girlfriend. You hid, in your room, trying to mom and dad not to hear you. So yeah, and then you went to push button phones, and then so it was rotary phone, now push button phone, and then of course along came the bag phone. When only realtors carried a phone, it was a big old thing over their shoulder. And then they went to cell phones, and everybody's like, "Oh, cell phones will never catch on." And of course, now we can't live without them, can we?
Yeah. Now look at us. We're video chatting, not even with a phone.
Isn't that crazy? You think you can talk to anybody around the world? You used to have to pay big money to talk to somebody. Like if you knew somebody in England or somebody went on a vacation, you'd have to dial a special number and pay big money. So it's just in a world that's amazing now. So yeah, with Carnegie Mellon doing self-driving cars, and who knows what else is coming. It's going to be an exciting next. Let's see. I hope to live another 20. So I hope they can do a lot of good things in the next 20 years. Next 50 years will probably be your cup of tea. I'm like, I won't make it there.
Lots of good things coming. Yes.
That's absolutely right. And that's how we have to look at it. But today we are going to talk a little bit about, well, you said speakerpreneur. So tell us what you do, how you got there. Don't take 25 minutes because that's all we got left, right? But tell us how you got to doing what you're doing and what makes you a speakerpreneur.
Well, I won't go all the way back, but in the recent past, I was working in public relations. I had my own shingle as a public relations person. I started out telling people that I did marketing, Steve. And so I would go to a networking event and I would say, I have a marketing firm. People were like, oh, that's really nice. But they didn't really know what marketing was. And then at the National Speakers Association, I took a class on public relations and I loved it. Public relations is a part of marketing. So the next networking event I went to, I said, I'm Beth Caldwell and I have a public relations firm. And everybody was like, I must talk to you immediately, right? And it was the same thing. I just put a different label on it. I was so surprised.
We all think we know what we need.
Right. But it's what they want is what we have to sell. So I grew a very fast business teaching other people how to do their own public relations. And what I noticed was that it didn't matter if I had a client that was a speaker like you and I, a one-person show, somebody that had 10 or 50 employees, or somebody that had 5,000 employees. They all had the same problems. And they all followed the same formula if they wanted public relations. And so I wrote a book and it did pretty well. That was in 2009. I've written 13 books since then.
Wow.
And I've used those books to to travel and speak in front of audiences and get to do a lot of the things that I always wanted to do. When my boys were in high school and I would have a book release, I would say, well, where do you want to go? Because I'm a divorced mom, so they had to go with me. So we would pick, Brian always wanted to go west, Grand Canyon, Phoenix. Kevin always wanted to go somewhere history, Washington, D.C., Gettysburg. And so we picked where we were going to go. And that is where I would plan a trip. So this is what I mean by speakerpreneur. So I would plan a trip. So my son wants to go to the Grand Canyon. So I call people using this amazing tool that we have called Google. I call people in Phoenix and Las Vegas and in the Grand Canyon area, Scottsdale, and say, I'm going to be in town. I'm an author and I'm going to be in town. Would you be interested in having a speaker for your event? I see you have one coming on March 15th. And that's how I grew my speaker business.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Fantastic.
And that's what most people don't understand is matter of fact, I get people all the time. Part of my business, of course, is teaching people how to be great speakers. It's also teaching them how to run a speaking business. And along with that, then almost no other speakers give them leads. I actually have a leads group attached to my speaking group so that when you work with me, I give you 200 leads to paying speaking, opportunities every month, so that when they're with me, they get to pick and choose and apply for these speaking gigs so that by the time they're done with me after 6 months, they're actually working for that $5,000, $10,000 gig. So that's what I like to say is, like you say, it's not just teaching somebody how to be a good speaker, right? That takes great skill, but it's also developing a business because everybody out there says I'm a speaker. And that's when so I don't know if you answered the question. I don't know if it's on this one, but it's always like, have you spoken for $5,000? That's how I separate out, the elite speakers from everybody else. Because, like you said, you went to NSA and took that course on
Public relations.
Public relations. I would say public speaking. No, public relations. And 60% of the people who belong to NSA have never made $50,000 a year from speaking. And I think that's what I find phenomenal is they all say they're going to be able to do this, but nobody teaches them how to go out and get those jobs. And that's all encompassing, and that's just vital to your success. And obviously, you know how to do that, and that's what's really cool is that Beth will teach you a little bit about how to go out, wrangle up those jobs because they don't just come to you. I've been speaking for 40 years, and nobody's just calling up going, "Hey, Steve, we haven't talked to you in a couple of years. We need you to speak." No, that's gone. That used to be when I was young. When I was 20, 30, 40 years old, people would call you. Now, like you say, they rely on the internet. They rely on all these other things. Applications that you do online, you got to have your videos in place. Oh my gosh, so much, right? So, but you also do something that I was really excited about. A lot of us speakers, we want to speak more. Matter of fact, I got a friend, a millionaire friend, right? And he says the best way to be a speaker is to host your own events. But when you hosted your own events, you know that you have to lay out significant dollars. And then you have to figure out a way to get people to come, right, Beth?
Well, I don't think I've never laid out significant dollars to have my events. Never. So I'm surprised to hear you say that, but I'll tell you, having my own events is the way that I really grew my business because I speak for other people as well. In fact, one of the things that I did, we're recording this in March, and last week was International Women's Day, and I had 4 speaking gigs. And my competitors are like, "What? How did you get these bookings?"
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah.
I told the people that it was International Women's Day. I was like, "Hey, people would call me and say, 'Tell me about your speaking.' I'm visible enough that people do call me. How can we work together?" And I said, "Did you know that March is International Women's Month? That would be a great time for you to have an event." And they were like, "Really? I think you're right. How do we do that? What should we do?" And
there you go. They're like, "What?" So you got to have the ideas first, and that's where Beth comes in. She's the idea person.
yes. And when my business was younger, years ago, when my boys were younger, my business was younger, sometimes I had to create my own events because there weren't enough in the town. I have found, I don't know about you, but I have found that in the town that I'm in, I'm not as much of a celebrity. I am a
Yeah.
celebrity here, but not as much as I am when I go out of town.
I'm gonna
And
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Do you know who Davidarvin is?
I don't.
Okay, Davidarvin has been around for 20, 30 years also, well, maybe longer, but David's an international speaker. I mean, when things were going well, David was around the world 2 or 3 times every year, just speaking and speaking and doing so well. And then, of course, the COVID hits and everybody had withdraws, but he's back out there now. And it was really funny because he was bragging the other day about he was actually speaking in his hometown. And he said, I don't think I've spoken in my hometown in 10 years. We're
Right, right.
not. I went to a place when I was just starting out. I was only making like $2,500, and I got hired out of Davenport, Iowa, to go speak in Lincoln, Nebraska. And when I'm there in Lincoln, Nebraska, doing my thing, somebody got up and said, "Hey, we really appreciate you coming to Lincoln because there's nobody in Lincoln, Nebraska like you who can really do this kind of thing." And I looked at him. I went, what's funny about that is there's somebody back in the Quad Cities right now thanking somebody from driving from Lincoln, Nebraska to do a talk for them saying exactly the same thing. We're not recognized in our hometown.
It's so true. It's so true. And anytime I leave town, even if it's an hour away, I get bigger crowds. People drive really far to see me. It's really interesting. And so, as a divorced mom, I needed a little bit more income. I also do what I enjoy doing, and one of the things that I enjoy doing is something I call work away weekends
Oh,
or retreat weekends. And
retreat.
I love to do retreats. And even during COVID, well, not during the shutdown time of COVID, I adapted my retreats. I did one workshop, yes, you can write a book totally virtually. And then I did some other retreats. Once the vaccine was out, I did retreats, but they were for less than 12 people. So I adapted. I worked during the pandemic, but we adapted during
That's
that
right.
time. And so, hopefully things are ramping back up again. But I like to keep my retreats smaller anyway. You charge more for them. But besides that, I also would do lunch and learn workshops and leadership workshops that I hosted myself. And in the early days, Steve, I charged $39, $49, $59 a ticket. But I remember the first workshop I did that I charged for. It was I'll tell you what happened. Funny story. I think this was a while ago. I need a new alternator on my car. Car doesn't run without an alternator.
That's true.
And a new car wasn't an option. I think it was going to be about $350. So I decided I would teach a workshop. And this thing called LinkedIn was up and about, and a lot of people were struggling with it. So I sat down and I wrote a description. Um, Something about LinkedIn, how to do LinkedIn. I made a clever name for it. And I thought, if I can just sell 10 seats to this workshop, I will pay for the alternator and we'll be good. Because at that time, I didn't have a savings account. It was very paycheck to paycheck. I was working part-time as a social worker and I was growing my business. So here's an example of how I did a workshop without paying for it. At my social work firm, they wanted to learn LinkedIn too. So
Oh,
I did it after hours and I let the executives come for free in exchange for a free room. I charged $35 for the ticket. And besides those, I don't know, 4 executives that came for free, I sold 80 tickets.
wow.
$35. I had enough money to buy the alternator and a hot water heater, which went out the next month, and also put a little money in the savings account, right? And so I remember my expectations were, if I can just sell 10 tickets, but I hit on something that people really needed and
Yeah.
they really wanted. And I learned also, you'll learn this too. Many of you already know this. If everybody comes to your event, you're not charging enough.
Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, so I upped that price to 59 and 69, and it went down. Sometimes I even charge $125 for a daytime workshop, and you get 10 people in the room instead of 60 people in the room. It's a way better conversation. You come home much less exhausted and a lot more satisfied and fulfilled
Oh,
from the
yeah.
work that you do.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talk about whenever we're teaching people how to do those kind of things is that people don't understand that the fewer people you have, the more time you get to spend with those who are in the room. Some people, I mean, I got again, one of the millionaire friends who does all this stuff. He says, always go to the VIP. If they're offering a VIP, pay for VIP and go. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. I'm not a big VIP person. Way back when I was, I paid for a VIP with Zig Ziglar. It was go have breakfast with Zig. And I went, oh, I'm paying that. I talked to my wife at the time and I said, I got to pay for, that money with Zig. Now keep in mind, this is 40 years ago, but it was like $200 to go have breakfast with Zig Ziglar. And I went, we're done. And I walked in and there were 100 people at this breakfast. Well, what did we get that the other people didn't get? The other 500 people attending later on in the afternoon. Because I thought we were going to get like intimate, 10 people would get to network with Zig. 100 people in the room, you're like, no, that's no. So every time I've paid VIP, it's always been too big a crowd to make it impactful. And that's why, like you say, when we do these smaller events, people want to be involved. Matter of fact, I'm doing one on Zoom here. I'm going to be doing one every 2 months on Zoom on how to grow your visibility. And because I don't pay much for Zoom, I think you get 10 seats, or it's not Zoom, it's StreamYard. And 10 seats. So I say, I got 10 seats. That's all I've got. And people are now starting to go, hey, I want to be a part of that. Well, you got to reserve your seat, And so it is because I want to be able to explain to them when they have questions, how to make it work. How do you do this, right? And that's what Beth's here for. How do we put on events? How do you fill an event? How do you get people there, right, Beth?
Yes, yes. So what would you like to know first?
Well, let's talk about, you said, it doesn't cost to put on an event. And now, here's what I learned over the last 4 years. And I say, I used to put on events at hotels all the time, go back 10, 12 years when I was doing relationship work, and I'd have women come in and pay. And, you paid $2,000 for the room plus food for the people. So you had to be making some decent money in order for that to happen. Well, fast forward now, and those rooms are now $5,000, $7,000 for a hotel room. Well, who can afford that? So, if you're guaranteed, if you're going to really boost out some people, then pay that kind of money. But most of us are looking for an inexpensive room that will serve us coffee and water. And then we can actually spend our time with our people. So how do you find venues? How do you decide where you're going to put it on?
Yeah, I don't, I keep my events pretty small, so I don't have to have a big hotel room. I don't like that environment of a big hotel room. Now, I did do that. I'll tell you what I did this year. I booked a hotel room here in my hometown. We are a big fireworks city in Pittsburgh. We have 3 rivers and a point, and for all the holidays, they will do a big fireworks display. And so I wanted to do, we had been locked up and shut down in COVID for a while. And in May of 2021, the mayor of our city announced that we were going to have fireworks in 2021. And I knew that I wanted to do something with a bang. So I called a downtown hotel, and I rented a suite on the top floor for $500. $500 for one night.
Now, $500. So it's $500, not $5,000.
If I wanted to rent the downstairs floor, it was going to be $3,000, right? But I could get a beautiful suite, which had a living room, a dining room, a bathroom, which is big as my whole kitchen. And $500, and I didn't have to pay for that. I just had to give them a credit card. So if I didn't give them a 24-hour notice, I was going to have to pay for it. So I took no risk there. This was in May of 2021. It was booked for July 4th and 5th of 2021. So I had 3 months to fill it. Okay. Now that dining room table in that suite held 12. So I said, I have 12 seats for $400, and here is what you get. You're going to get a private VIP fireworks evening celebration. You are going to get, like, I just sat down and wrote it up, right? And then the next day, I spent the night in the suite, which was paid for. And what did I say? $400 a ticket. So like a little bit more than one ticket, and I was paid for.
Yeah.
That was it.
And what were you like? What did you offer to them? What was the seminar on?
I'm pretty intuitive, and I think about a lot of time. I do private coaching, so I think about what are my clients needing right now, and what am I needing right now. So this one I called Re-Spark Your Business, and it was just about getting back to work, getting back into the swing of things. I pulled a lot of pieces from already existing talks that I did. And we talked about branding, and we talked about planning and strategizing and manifesting and all the things that women like.
But I like, first of all, the name Re-Spark and fireworks. They went together. So that's what a name.
I had that, and one thing that I do in my business now, Steve, is I don't overbook myself. I charge more than I used to. So I'm not working constantly. So I have time to think of good ideas like this. I have time to sit on my back deck in May and go, what should I call this event? I don't have to hurry up and run to another event. So I had some time to think about it. I booked the hotel. They were thrilled.
Yeah.
Because nobody had been staying in the hotel. And I sent out an email, and at first nobody responded because that was a little bit daring to plan something when during the uncertainty. But sure enough, I said, all I have to do is sell 3 tickets. And nobody knows how many people I want. Right. So if I sell 4 tickets, I could say we're sold out. I wanted 4 people in the room and I got it. Right. I didn't know that one was it was a risky one, but it didn't cost me anything. It just cost my time.
That's right.
Some other things that I have done in the past that have cost me nothing. I mean, obviously it costs you money,
Well,
but
yeah, it costs you something
first, right?
That's right.
I make my money first and then I have a budget. Okay. So then when I wound up getting 12 people, I had plenty of money. That was a very profitable event for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I invited my family, my adult family. They got to come and see VIP fireworks night, and all of my clients got to meet them. It was fantastic. Other things that I've done is I've looked for really unique places. Another thing, I've done Airbnbs. I've booked Airbnbs that are enormous, that have huge, beautiful kitchens and beautiful dining rooms that are $500, $600 a night, and you pay for them the night you stay. So I can book it. I can spend the night there the day before and get ready. People aren't coming into my home, and I can create a beautiful experience. I've done things on golf courses. I've done things with beautiful fireplaces and had hot chocolate. We even stayed in a place once that had a big pizza oven where I didn't make the pizzas. We had people volunteer to make the pizzas for everybody at the night, right?
Well, and that's another thing. If you're in a hotel, and this is, again, when I started, go back 15 years ago, you said, I want to make it big. I want to make it impressive. I want to make it feel like, and you rented a hotel room and you scrambled to pay for it. And now what we've learned is exactly what Beth is saying here, which is if what you want to do, right, is put some money in your pocket, it's vital to put some money in your pocket. You have to plan this out in advance. You can use like the Airbnb for one night is really a good idea. But guess what? There's no catering fees. If you go to a hotel and they say, hey, we're at $49 to $69 per plate of food. Now, you and I know that it's way overpriced, but that's what they evidently have to charge. But here, if you're in your own place, if you're an Airbnb or if you've gone to the golf course, and I don't know the golf courses that well, but most of them don't require you to use their food, so you can have it catered in. Or if you're at that one place where they have a real nice kitchen, somebody that would love, a caterer that would love to showcase their food and show up for basically free and serve food so that you can get those 12 or 20 people to try their food. And they're like, yes, we need to use these people when we want to cater. So it's really, there's so many ideas out there. And that's why Beth is on the show today.
Right. Another idea that I've done, Steve, is I've rented a bed and breakfast. So it's a little bit hard to find a bed and breakfast that has more than 4 rooms. So that's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky if you want to do an overnight event. Okay. But I did something here in my part of the country. We're not far from Amish country. I can go about 2 hours north, west, or east. And I've gone to some bed and breakfasts that maybe only had 4 rooms, but they had a great big meeting room. Oh. And so I would say, this is a 1-day retreat in Amish country. Okay. Now I've learned, that's how I did my first ones. And I got some harsh criticism from other speakers and some coaches. And that happens to me. And if that happens to you too, you hit the nail on the head. I didn't know the statistics that you said how few people make a nice profit in speaking.
Oh,
and I found out.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and we were talking about how all of these people at different associations and how few of them actually earn money and make a profit. Go ahead.
Right. You gave a statistic after we started. I can't remember what it was, but I got some criticism when I did this. I did a Saturday only workshop. I called it Activate Your Abundance. It was about 9 years ago. The innkeeper charged me, Steve, $0 for the room. because she said, all you have to do is sell the 4 rooms upstairs. Sell the 4 rooms
Oh,
upstairs, you can have the whole place. Well, I took 1 room and I sent out an email and I said, there are only 3 rooms if you want to spend the night. Well, they were sold within an hour. I have
oh,
about, at
cool.
that time, I had about 300 people on my list, not a big list. Okay. But people like that. They like that experience. So I got the whole place for free. So I wound up selling 20 tickets. I was terrified to do something for just 1 day. And I charged, I think I put a price on it, I think of $249. And I said, if you register early, it's only $199. Well, we sold more than 25 tickets. I had to shut it down because we were kind of standing room only. And I got some criticism on that, some pretty mean criticism on that from other speakers saying, you're really cheapening our industry. 2 things. One, I noticed that the people who were criticizing me were people who were not speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
That's
were
right. The people who, yeah, that's exactly right. If they haven't heard of your thing or if they haven't designed your thing, I had somebody, I won an award from this little dinky thing decades ago, and I put it out and they went, we think you're lying because we've never heard of that association. I don't care. I mean, quite frankly, I don't care, but I felt like I had to prove it to them and I didn't.
Yeah.
You do your thing, and
Right.
all these people will come out of the woodwork because, like you say, you're only charging $249 for your. Well, how much are you charging? Well, I charge $5,000 to go speak. Well, you're not doing workshops, are you? You're not doing little seminars, are you? And they're like, well, no. And you're like, then get out of town, right?
Right. Well, and I like to say how many times, a couple people who call me, they want $3,500 for a 1-hour gig. Again, not what I'm doing, although I do get that. Why do I get that? Because I've done all these little things that have given me great visibility. Okay.
That's right.
But they want $3,500 for 1 hour. They have no experience. They have no contacts. They have no visibility. They have no bookings. So they might get 1 booking a year where I'm booked 4 or 5 times a month. P.S. I'm putting 2 boys through college here. I'm figuring this out, right? Like I'm figuring this out. So, but let's think about that for a minute. $199 times 20.
Yeah.
It was a 4-hour workshop. Come on, like it was a 4-hour workshop. And here's what I
Count
did.
me in.
Yeah, like that's a good day pay, right?
Because again, I teach people how to become speakers, how to design their business, how to build a business for speakers. And that for me, that means keynote speeches at $5,000 and $10,000 for that hour. But we don't spend our whole lives just doing keynote. I mean, a few guys like that, Davidarvin I talked about earlier, he spends his life just traveling around the world doing keynote talks for $25,000 an hour, right? Because he earned that right. And he's got niches and specialties. But let's face it, when I started talking, and I teach my people this too, I always build myself as, hey, it's Steve Zapata. He'll speak for food. And people go, what? I go, I used to talk I spent 2 years earning my degree in speaking by going to people's luncheons, by people inviting me to their dinners talks, and used to talk for 20 minutes on a topic of your choice because they just need a speaker to entertain their people. And I got free dinner. So I spent 2 years learning, finding out. Some of your jokes fell flat. Sometimes you were so embarrassed because you walked away because it was so terrible that you embarrassed yourself. But that's all process of learning. And when you're doing it for free, it doesn't hurt anybody. And certainly you learn how to do things. But there's a process. And as Beth is showing you here, you don't have to talk for $5,000, right? If you talk for $199 and you get 20 people to show up, that's $4,000 in your pocket, depending on how you process it. So let's say it costs you only $900 to put the whole thing together. You made over $3,000 for a 4-hour workshop, as she's talking about here. How many people would like to be talking for $3,000 an hour? Well, count me in. I'm there, right?
Right.
That's
Well,
the name of the game, and that's what Beth is trying to teach you here.
yeah. For food, you know what we did for food that year? We did soup and quiche.
Oh,
Well,
what?
we had like cheese and crack. I mean, nice, nice. I did nice high end things,
Yeah.
but they don't come for the food. But when you keep somebody for a long time, you do have to feed them.
Well,
So,
and see now, and I used to say that all the time, and I spent great money to get my people great food, and they walked away going, "That was a phenomenal event," and then I made like $1,800. You spent months working up to it and getting it laid in place and renting a hotel room and buying your signage and doing all, and you made almost no money. And the last 3 years, I've run across all these wonderful people that are now associated with, right? And well, I'll use this one. He's a multimillionaire, Beth, multimillionaire. And he spends his life running the country, doing his talks, right? His luncheons, everything else that he does. And you know what he gives you? I went to a one-day event from him. And you know what he gives you? Water. Water. I looked at him. I went, hey, don't you have coffee here today? He goes, I don't spend for coffee. You want coffee? Go out to the hotel lobby and get some. What? No, he's making $2,000, $3,000 off of each person who walks through that door. You don't get food. You don't get water, right? Those 20 people who spent that kind of money buy their own stuff. And he says, I owe you nothing. I'm going to give you so much value in the workshop that it's going to pay for itself. But I learned from them that, you know what, you give them the basics. You don't have to go broke buying other people good food and all that other stuff. Yep, like you say, if you keep them all day, feed them a Subway sandwich or whatever it might be. But keep it in your budget. It's your budget, right, Beth? Hey, by the way, while I'm thinking about one of the things, how big does my list have to? What if I don't have 10,000 people on my list? Can I still make money?
I think I have about 4,000 people on my list right now. I don't have a huge list. And some of my overnight retreats, I like to say, I like to know the people I sleep with. So when I'm doing an overnight retreat,
you know me.
When I'm doing an overnight retreat, I don't invite my whole list. It goes out to only my clients that I work with now. And then if I still have room, there might be somebody that's done a discovery call with me that didn't hire me. But that is by invitation only. If you want to sleep with me, you got to be invited into the place, right? That's the way the deal is. Okay. So that is very, very limited. Now, I also make money from my coaching program. So I don't just make money at the event. So there's that to consider as well. But I would rather you have a really good small list than an enormous list of people that don't even know who you are, basically. People talk about giving away freebies so they can grow their list. I grow my list generally when I go out to speak. That's where my list comes from every time I speak. I wouldn't say it's my goal, Steve, but it's the return is usually two kinds of bookings, either a new client and a new speaking gig, or two speaking gigs or two new clients. It's always two of something. It's always two of something that I get because I do a great job, because I love what I'm doing.
But I want you to notice here, folks, is that she said she has a goal when she goes out. I talk to people. I just talked to a guy on LinkedIn. He sent me an invitation. And I wrote back to him and I said, so, hey, thanks for the invite. How do you think we might help each other benefit from a relationship here on LinkedIn, right? A win-win situation for both of us, for each of us. And he wrote back and he said, I don't have any agenda. I just sent you an invite. I got 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. You know what? 8,500 of them came when I was doing exactly what that person was doing, which was just like, I think I'm supposed to get a big following on LinkedIn. And I threw out invitations and I accepted invitations. I don't know who they were or why. Here's what I learned. If I'd have stuck with 300 or 400, get to know them pretty well, have a relationship with them pretty well, those 300 or 400 would bring me in enough business for me to sustain myself all year long. And that's what most people, as Beth just showed you, if you've got a relationship with these people, when you've filled up an event or gotten it and you still have room, then you can reach out to new people or different people. But it's all about how do they know, like, and trust you. Isn't that what we spend our time with, Beth?
Absolutely. It's absolutely. So intentional list building.
That's right.
Is where we've gone, right? It's true. 10 years ago, we were taught numbers. Get the followers. I have the same thing as you do on LinkedIn. I have a lot of people that I don't know, and I've learned to become intentional.
Yep. That's what it's all about. If you take nothing else away from us on this, we will both be glad to teach you how to use LinkedIn. It's a valuable tool, but it's only one tool in your arsenal. And when you learn how to use it, and I mean, there's all kinds of ways to use it, but when you learn what works for you, it will become a very valuable resource. I don't know about everybody else, but Facebook has never brought me any business. Instagram, a little business. LinkedIn, a majority of the business that I do online. And so it's really important that when you learn from people like Beth and myself. Hey, by the way, Beth, how do they get in touch with you?
My website is coachbethcaldwell.com.
CoachBethCaldwell.com. Now that's BethCaldwell. CoachBethCaldwell.com, right? You guys got that? And this is what's important then. You can also go, I just threw this up on the thing, but I'll include it in the chat afterwards so you can copy and paste this. But Beth, you want to tell us about this little?
So about a year ago, Steve, I taught a master class. This is where I get my content from. When I keep getting questions over and over and over again, I'll create a master class or an event on it. This was during COVID pandemic, so I did a master class, and it's called So You've Written an Ebook, Now What? It was a master class that I did. People, they're told and they're taught, create some content. Maybe it's an ebook, maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's an actual book or a workbook, or maybe it's a masterclass, whatever it is, you have created it, and now what? And in this class, I teach how to use that tool, whatever it is, whatever that giveaway, whatever that marketing giveaway is. I teach what I did, what I've done with my ebooks and my masterclasses, and how I use them for positioning, to get publicity, to grow your list, and to get clients. Right? Whether they're speaking clients, coaching clients, whatever clients you're looking for. A lot of people just create content because somebody told them to create content, and then they don't do anything with it.
Or I have friends, and I looked at them all the time. And you tell me how you feel about this, Beth, but I have people who say, oh, and I'm giving away a free chapter of my book. No, don't do it. I'm probably not going to read the chapter, and I know I'm not going to read the rest of your book unless it's what is it, science fiction or something that really catches my attention, but the odds of me spending any time after you give me a free chapter is zero. I've never known anybody yet who made money off of a chapter offering. That's not a value to the people you're talking to, unless that chapter has something like Beth just said. My chapter teaches you how to use an ebook, right? Then they might buy the whole book. But if you're just offering something, make sure it's of value to the people who are watching what you do, right, Beth?
You know what really frustrates me is the people that don't want to give away anything.
Oh, yeah.
And they say they have to buy it from me. And you know the example, you're going to love the example I use. I would say, tell me, who's your favorite musician? What music do you like? Steve, who's your favorite musician? What kind of music do you like?
Santana. If you gave me Santana, I'd be there.
How did you learn about Santana?
Probably the radio.
You heard it on the radio, right? So what do musicians do with their life's work? They let us hear it for free on the radio, so we go buy the album. That's
right.
how you do it. That is how it's done.
Great
We
example.
have spent so much money on music in our lifetimes. We did it because we heard it for free first.
And that's true of a lot of things. I mean, I'm reading one now, and I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's I don't know. Expert. It's something become the expert or something. And it's by one of the guru guys. And it took me a long time. He gave the book away for free. Now you had to pay for the shipping, so it was $7.99. So he didn't lose money on the deal. But he gave it away. I bought the book. It sat on my shelf for 6 months. Honest, it sat there for 6 months. And then I saw him again on Facebook where he was making the same offer 6 months later, a free book. And it was the same book. Expert Secrets. It's called Expert Secrets. And I went, oh, I have that book. And I had to ask my wife, hey, have you seen that book around? And then you know what happened next? I actually went online and ordered the audio version of that book. So he made money. Boom. Made money off me buying the audio version of that book. And that's what's phenomenal is, as Beth said, you have no idea how much giving something for free away can change your business. Beth, we're wrapping up here in the last minute. I'll give you some time for wisdom for us. How's that?
Oh, wow. Well, my wisdom is, I think my biggest piece of wisdom for Americans today, particularly American women who I work with the most, but you can tell me if men deal with this too, is stop worrying about what people will think. If you want to write an ebook, if you want to host a retreat, if you want to host a workshop, do it. You know, I got started in this really because I needed an alternator. I needed to get my kids to school. If I had said, and I think that might be how I got out of that. I didn't have time to worry about what people thought of me or what people were going to say about me. I did it because I needed to buy an alternator for my kids, and I wound up becoming a speakerpreneur. And my
And
dad says I've been practicing for this my whole life. He says, you've been telling people what to do since you were 2 years old. You never shut your mouth. You've been
oh.
practicing about it, right? But I figured out how I could use my gifts to pay for that car repair. And then look what happened. Look at what happened.
You know, what Beth is telling you there is action speaks louder than words. Action. Okay. I don't even care for this person, but I will share a thing with Suzanne Evans. I don't care for her. I don't care for her style. I don't care for what she does. But I remember her. I went to an event 12 years ago now, her in Orlando. And she started off by saying she was a secretary. She didn't know what she was doing. She just know that she was tired of being a secretary and making no money. So she had heard that people doing life coaching, they could make a lot of money. So she went out. She had no idea. She went out, set up a stand in a grocery store, and got 4 clients in one day, paying her $50 a month to be a coach, life coach. And all that says is, and I only give her credit here, is because now she's a multimillionaire, just so you know. But she took action. She got off her bottom. She took a chance. She went out and didn't worry about what people were going to say. She's at a grocery store with a card table saying, "Hey, I'm a life coach. I think if you need help, talk to me." 4 clients. That's $200 in a month. Now, I know that's not much money, but what a great way to start, right? And that's what Beth said. Beth said, "I need money, and the way to do that, I think, would be this." And she took action. And that's what you folks need to do. We're 40 minutes past this whole thing, so I'm way over today. But I think it's really important that you understand. Beth came in to help us learn how to create, fill, and host events, and she's teaching you here. So Beth, if they're listening, how do they get in touch with you again so that they can really have a chat?
So go to coachbethcaldwell.com and you will see my Monday Morning Mastermind, a tab for Monday Morning Mastermind. I do a free video, motivational video with some strategy every single Monday. And if you would like more, click on the Work with Beth and stop thinking and start working. Okay? That's my best advice to you.
And the website again was?
coachbethcaldwell.com.
coachbethcaldwell.com. If you have questions, write to me. I'm Steve at Steve Sapato. You guys have been listening to my podcast. You know how to get a hold of me. And if you have questions about Beth, reach out because she's phenomenal and she will absolutely help you change your life. I thank you for listening today. And I'm sorry I kept you a few minutes over, but I think it's proven to be worth your time. And that's why we're here. I hope you have a blessed day. God bless.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.